going to professional football, okay? And we're gonna first of all, let's talk about where do you want to even start, man? There's so much fucking shit.
There's just this. They have a. I'm going to be interested with this black cloud that's hanging over the NFL right now, that's hanging over the Miami Dolphins, just how quickly Roger Goodell is going to make this go away. Now, everyone sits there and they want to say that this law came, this in my opinion, at this point, with everything we know, Martin is never going to play in the NFL again. Martin is not going after Richie Incognito. He's going to sue the Dolphins and the NFL, and they're going to settle, and you're looking at loss of future earnings because the young man's going to try to play with another NFL team. He's going to walk into the locker room, say, oh, I'm too emotionally stressed to play. Martin, in my opinion, at this point, is the guy who is playing because he's tall or because he's strong or because he's fast. I don't think his heart has ever been in the NFL. Now, that doesn't excuse the treatment that he's gotten. It doesn't excuse any of that, and that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is I think this guy is angled and got this all set up for a payday, and that's what he's going to get.
It's just, I mean, it's seriously to the point, George, where it's so fucking stupid. I'm sorry, I'm saying it like that. I just don't even give a fuck no more, man. It's like, to me, you're a professional football player. I mean, I don't know. I guess,
Richie Incognito is the NFL. There's a Richie Incognito in everyone's locker room, and I'm going to tell you right now, more than likely, he plays on the offensive line or defensive line. Do any of you people think Ndamukong Suh is an angel? Do you think he's in there with his little tee out and minding his manners and just a nice guy? No, these guys have a switch that gets flipped, and Martin just didn't have it. He doesn't have it, so walk away. And instead of walking away, he took the abuse. And again, he shouldn't get abused. If you don't want to play, don't play. But I think he hung on just long enough and found the right guy with the right track record and the right past to go, this guy fucked with me the last time. He did it. I'm going to get paid. You're going to pay me for emotional damages and future lost wages. Give me my 20, 30 million, and I'll be done. Leave me alone. And on NFL, you'll never hear from me again. And it doesn't help when you go and you look at a guy like Incognito who sexually assaulted a girl with a golf club, who had 3 or 4 run-ins with the police last year, who got kicked off multiple college teams. He found the perfect person to help go, this is what the NFL's like. No shit. People out there don't want to be in the locker room, and when they find out what's in the locker room, they go, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is how they play the fucking game.
Right. Well, this is the thing, too, man. Some of these people don't realize that, the mainstream public has to realize is that a lot of these players in the NFL are only like 3-4 years removed from high school. You know what I'm saying? Seriously. Like, think about high school. Think about fucking high school. 3 or 4 years removed from high school. You know all the drama that happened in high school. And these guys, obviously go to college, but some of them only go to college for 2 or 3 years and they're in the pros. Right. So this whole thing, man, I mean, it's just, I'm not going to waste any more fucking air on it because it's so fucking stupid. Because who knows, George? I mean, we'll say one thing and it'll change. And we'll say something else and it'll change.
I'm just saying with what we know right now, this is what it looks like to me. And again, and I'll say it again and again and again, Martin should never be. No death threats, no physical abuse. Look, I understand it's part of hazing and this, that, and the other thing, but go ahead and there's an article out on Deadspin from a Saints tight end who had to deal with hazing and almost lost an eye. That's taking shit a little too far. It just is. Because if you showed up to work and somebody starts hitting you in the eye or hits you in the eye with a sock full of quarters and you almost lose your eye, there's no place for that at any job, at any level. I don't care what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I know my first year in college, man, there was, for Omega Psi Phi, they had some guys on the yard and they were doing hazing and fucking kid died. They had him they were running him so hard up like these coal hills that he literally passed away. He died in his dorm room.
Yeah,
it was fucking crazy. And then the whole fucking fraternity got kicked off the fucking yard. But anyway, man, let's move on to some other shit besides this fucking Pouncey bullshit because he's more than likely not done with the Dolphins. Let's talk about Cutler's out. He's hurt. There's all these injuries now that are becoming like really affecting everybody. I mean, now let's Cutler's out. Let's talk about some of the injuries. It's the Seahawks, in their victory yesterday lost Browner. That to me is a big fucking injury. He's got a groin injury, and that is a motherfucker for QBs. You know what I mean? CBs. And that he's a very important component in that defense in my opinion.
There's not. I mean, they're all important on that defense.
Right.
And this is in the NFL. I don't think you have depth. Like, this isn't college. You're not going and grabbing your next 5-star recruit off the bench and putting him in. This is going to be hard. This is going to be tough for the Seattle to overcome. But then, I mean, speaking of things to overcome, is it time to blow up the Atlanta Falcons?
I mean, they just look terrible.
They're horrible. I mean, I understand they have injuries left and right, and all their stars are out. But at home, you get beat by 23. Ouch.
I think this season, with the passing season, you see it every year, George. It's like, you know what? Like, for example, the Cowboys. Okay, yeah, they got whipped by New Orleans. It was a bad matchup. I figured that New Orleans would beat them, but the moment that fucking Sean Lee went out, I'm like, that whole game it changed tremendously. You know what I mean?
They lost their quarterback on defense. They lost the guy who, they're listening to. They're basically the guy that's going to call out all the protections and runs and who's going to be where and everything. And once he was gone, you could see. I think Drew Brees then threw like 10 million straight passes.
Straight pass. I mean, the numbers they put up historic numbers. Once again, I think, did they end up breaking a first down record?
I think so. They got 3,000.
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at that in Dallas and what happened, and now that guy's going to be out for 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm going to tell you what, one of the worst things that's going on is what's happening in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, because that team, that's why he was an MVP, because you see that team is, I mean, they've been just riddled with injuries the whole season, but man, Aaron Rodgers had to be the worst one. They don't. Yeah. They're trying out Matt Flynn. You know that because he knows the system.
Right, but then the knock right now on Matt Flynn is he's got an undisclosed arm injury, and that's why he's getting cut left and right. He supposedly has no zip on the ball because he either has an elbow or a shoulder problem, which would be a serious problem that I would think you want to go get fixed. But while we're talking about that, and since I was last week I said the Eagles look good, I'm sorry, but when your team scores 7 touchdowns in the NFL, I don't care who you're playing against, I have the right to say they look good because, Ramon, they looked good. My quarterback doesn't heave the ball down the field in the double and triple coverage, so I can understand with your lack of knowledge of an NFL offense why you think that didn't look good. But and this week versus Green Bay, they did not look good. But see, I can honestly say that about my team because I don't fucking view sports with blinders on, Ramon. So,
but this is what I want to say, George, and you said this a long time ago. I mean, not even a long time ago. You said it about the Eagles. The one thing you've been very brutally honest about the Eagles, and you said, I just want a quarterback that can manage. Mike Vick cannot manage the game. And you're right. Since Mike Vick's absence, Nick Foles has stepped in. He's got 16 touchdowns, no interceptions. And it's like he's managing the game. He's not making mistakes. He's not doing stupid shit. And you know what? That seems to be working in Chip Kelly's offense right now.
Yeah.
It's the little things, not trying to heave it down. He had a couple, the one pass to Deshaun Jackson. But
I mean, let me tell you, how he got out of that game without throwing a pick blows me away. Because I watched them force one to Avant. He forced shit to Deshaun on the double pat to a touchdown. It was a sloppy, ugly game. But to be honest, no one's expecting anything else from your offense anyway, so you might as well heave and hope it down the field. So I'm sure Ramon could have related to that play. Now, granted, my guy didn't out-jump half the defense to get it. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So does that mean Deshaun Johnson's as good as Megatron? Some might say yes, who live, in Detroit world and think that's the right way to do it. No, it was a horrible play. It was an ill-advised throw. It turned out well. Am I going to pretend that it was good? No. They play the Redskins next, and it's not the same Redskins team they played week 1.
Well, no, because you got now, but we have a lot of problems, man. I mean, the biggest problem that the Redskins have is it's that fucking funky-ass defense that Jim Haslett's running. And the problem is they're running a 3-4, and you know what? Now it's hard to switch out of 3-4 and go to a 4-3, and it's a problem, man. To me, for Redskins fans, a lot of people are like, I'm done, because they know the season's lost. And people are like, oh, they were 3-6 last year. Shut the fuck up. All you Redskins fans understand is shut the fuck up, okay? It's so apparent that Shanahan has lost faith in his defense. And the biggest reason I say that was our special teams suck worse than the defense. And Shanahan attempted to go for it on 4th down and fake a punt. Okay, he let our funky ass special, our go for something when this guy sucks. Okay, but that's how much he wanted to keep the offense on field and not have the defense on the field. It is London Fletcher is one of my favorite players and stuff like that. But you know what? last year probably was his last year. You know what? You need big, athletic fucking linebackers to run the 3-4. You see what's happening in Pittsburgh. When you get a little bit old.
Here's what I think you need to do. I think you need to find somebody, a friend of a friend who's got tickets, and I'll meet you in Philadelphia at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. That ain't gonna be happening. I'm not going up to the fucking Eagles. Last time my buddy went up there, he said, first of all, he had nosebleed seats. George?
No, hell no. You don't take no. You know, me being an Eagles fan, I'm not sitting up there with those monsters. That's a different breed of person who sits up there.
He said, first of all, he felt like he was climbing a ladder to the seats, and he got up there, and he said there was this he had his Redskins gear on, and he said he fucking got up to the seats, and there was all these fucking Eagles fans up in the Eagles nest, and he said this fucking 8-year-old kid with a mullet said, "Go home, motherfucker." This fucking kid, 8 years old, coming at him, right, with a fucking mullet. You know, now that's the first thing you see when you get up there, okay? What's behind that motherfucker?
Yeah, well, you know what the beautiful thing is? I went to, not this past season, but the season before, I went to a preseason game at Philadelphia, and the Steelers were playing. And unfortunately, I sat next to Jed and Bubba Clampett, who had all of their Pittsburgh Steeler gear on. And if that's any indication of what lives in Pittsburgh, I'm glad I'm in Philly, number one. Number two, when Billy and Bubba Ray stood up and said, "Yeah, man," one of the eccentric folk in Philadelphia said, "Why don't you sit your fucking redneck ass down, you stupid fucking hillbillies?" I was like, welcome to Philadelphia.
I'm telling you, dude, the fucking fans in Philly are fucked up.
Right, so when you come this Sunday, just don't wear anything that says Redskins. We'll be good.
I'm not coming. You ain't seeing my black ass up in that motherfucker, dude. I'm telling you.
The one game I would like to talk about, what on God's green earth happened in Indianapolis?
It's, you know what, I don't know.
Did they fall asleep?
You know what? This is the thing, man. When I look at the fucking NFL this year, it is hard to see who is a dominant team. I mean, I guess some people could say the Seahawks or the Chiefs, but I think both are teams that you feel like they can't put up a lot of points, you know, and then you look at Indianapolis, what happens to them this weekend, but you look at some of the teams that they've beat, but they got fucking just
between their two quarterbacks for Indianapolis, they threw 4 picks. Luck had 3, Hasselbeck had 1. It was just ugly, 38-8. And I'm going to tell you what, turning around on a short week, because they just got done playing on Sunday, Thursday night they have to play in Tennessee. That's not going to be a cakewalk. That's not going to be a fun game.
Oh, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I mean, because you saw what Tennessee did. They've been, well, obviously you know, what they were doing. They just lost to Jacksonville and gave Jacksonville their first win of the season. And now, you know, they got worse news because they've definitely, Locker's lost for the season. Well,
but you got to know that Tennessee's going to come out to avenge that. They're going to come out and try to make an example out of Indianapolis and show it was a fluke, that we shouldn't have. I mean, the one guy said it was embarrassing to lose to Jacksonville. I mean,
let me tell you something. Losing to Jacksonville, it's not a fluke. It's just your team sucks to some degree. I'm sorry, Alex Ewing, but the thing is, it's like, okay, that's like losing to Jacksonville at this point in time would be like using the fucking Sherwood High School down the fucking street. Jesus. Well, worse yet, Einstein.
I'm gonna tell you what. To be honest, looking at these games on paper and the score, because I didn't get to see a lot of them, it was a very low. Well, not low scoring. It just seemed like a very tight, unexpected scores. Cincinnati got away with a ill-advised play that gets them into not ill-advised. I mean ill-advised on the Ravens defense. The guy knocked the ball down. Knock the ball down and you don't go into overtime. And Baltimore still wins it over Cincinnati by 3. Pittsburgh at home versus Buffalo, they only win by 13. I mean, and the big rumor is that Ben's going to ask for a trade in the offseason.
This is the thing, Josh. When I look at the NFL season, you know, and a lot of the analysts, from all the, media outlets are saying it's like there's just not as much defense that exists in the NFL anymore. I mean, Kansas City has a great defense. Seattle has a great defense. There's some other teams out there obviously have a great defense.
Carolina.
Carolina's great. And they could be somebody that sneaks into the fucking championship game. They really could, after they beat San Francisco this past weekend. But I'm going to tell you what, the one thing that I see, if there's any type of consistency, there's two teams that I see that consistently do something every fucking week. And even though they've had, between both of them, they've had like 3 losses, I believe, but every week these teams do this. And that's fucking the Denver Broncos and the New Orleans Saints. They put up fucking numbers. And you got to go in there saying, can we beat this fucking team in a shootout? And I have to believe that if New Orleans can end up if Seattle loses another game in New Orleans and Seattle, New Orleans gets the home field advantage. They'll go to the Super Bowl. They'll go to the Super Bowl.
Next week in the NFL, when you're up in Philly and we're watching the Eagles game, it's gonna be a very telling weekend in that the 49ers are going to New Orleans. That's a key game. Kansas City's traveling to Denver, so we're going to find out what Kansas City's about. Now, Manning is kind of, they said he's going to be in, but he's having ankle issues. He's had ankle issues all season. And New England is playing at Carolina, and Carolina's 6-3, very quietly 6-3.
Yeah, and they're like, to me, they remind me a little bit of Indianapolis. I mean, they look like you've got all these teams that are mirroring each other. I think you've got fucking the Chiefs mirror kind of like the Seahawks. The fucking Indianapolis Colts mirror the Panthers. And then you got the Broncos mirror the Saints. You know, they're teams that are very similar on each side, and it's like, but they're just so fucking unpredictable.
Now, for the game of the week next week is being played at 1:00, and it's not in Philadelphia. And I want you to pick the winner. Detroit is traveling to Pittsburgh. Who you got?
Oh, I got Detroit.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Well,
I will say this: we give Ramon a hard time. I will say this, I feel like this. I don't feel like Stafford just heaves the ball up all the time. I feel like Ramon is a little excited because there's a good quarterback in
I feel
Detroit.
like you're taking Ramon's side because you guys have something in common.
Yeah, you better suck my dick. You cut off that fucking. Don't pull somebody's card. It's not even going that route. I feel like, honestly, when I really look at it, I feel like Stafford's a good quarterback. I don't feel like he's an elite quarterback, but I feel like he is better than the majority of the quarterbacks in the NFL. He's in the top half without a doubt, and I think you got to look at his stats and see that. You know what I'm saying? Now, does
I
Calvin
put him easily like top 7 or 8.
Yeah, definitely. And I think because of that, he does have a strong arm. He says, so some of the things Ramon's saying are definitely right, without a doubt. But I think to say that he's an elite quarterback, I think you're pulling the trigger a little bit too early on that. I think for people that think that, you got to look at who's around him, who he's throwing the ball to. And you look at the elite quarterbacks, and it doesn't matter who the fuck they're throwing the ball to, they're always fucking getting crazy numbers. You know what I mean? You see how many different receivers Brees has dealt with, Manning has dealt with, Brady has dealt with. Stafford has never even had the opportunity yet. Calvin Johnson's never left. You know what I'm saying? He just, so I mean, but I do think with the one thing about, and I said it just with the Redskins, when you run a 3-4, you got to have some young fucking athletic players, and I think that's what's hurting the Steelers right now. Everybody's talking about Dick LeBeau. Does he still have it? I don't think he doesn't have it. I just think he doesn't have the personnel anymore. You know, Troy Polamalu's this great fucking player, but Troy Polamalu's definitely not the player he was 5-6 years ago. He's just lost a step. You know? Yeah, and he gets faked out a lot too. Rodney Harrison was saying that sometimes he doesn't commit, and that causes problems. And I think, you know what? Who is going to cover fucking Megatron?
They might have to end up doing what they just did to Des Bryant. Every time you looked up last night, Des Bryant had punt coverage on him.
Yeah. What
it's going to come down to is Matt Stafford making elite, heady quarterback decisions. He's going to have to look up and see there's a double team and go other places because he's not going to be able to heave and hope the ball. I mean, and I understand that you don't think he does that, and that's fine. And Ramon obviously believes that too.
See, you're not listening.
See, that's what listening. I'm interpreting and making it fit my story and my angle. Right. So my angle is
that's what your good is. I think he heaves the ball up a lot, but I don't think he heaves up as much as you fucking say, Doug.
Well, this weekend's going to be a telling sign because he's going to be on the road, and I have a feeling that they're going to bracket Calvin Johnson. He's going to have a safety over him at all times, and he's going to have a cornerback underneath him at all times. So he's either going to have to break it to the middle and try to work the middle of the field because I don't think you're going to catch this dude on a 9 route. I don't think they're going to be there. Now, I could be wrong, but Stafford's going to have to go to the tight ends. He's going to have to go to Reggie Tush out of the backfield and hit some of the underneath stuff because it should be there all day long because that cat draws so much attention every time he leaves the line of scrimmage.
You know what? He'll eat the Steelers defense up doing that, man. He'll run more like if they do more of West Coast offense where they're just doing little things, little screens, little things out of that. They're going sooner or later. Those corners are going to pull up, and you know what?
And then you go over top.
Yeah, and it's not even going over top, man. I mean, you look at some of the things that he hits Megatron on, like that when they played Dallas that time, he was hitting them across the fucking middle, like on slants and shit, and just bam. I mean, he throw a slant kind of high, like you said. And I tell you another person who RG3 throws the same type of pass to fucking Pierre Garçon. He throws it high. He just snags it out of the fucking air because the guy's so athletic. And it's like, I will agree with, like, I'm like, RG3 is not throwing the ball accurately. Pierre Garçon is making it happen. He's making RG3 look like good right now this season. And it's, you know, he can do that all day. I don't think Pittsburgh right now's personnel can cover those guys. I just don't.
And know what's going to make this video look real good?
What?
Next week.
What?
Because it's time to hit stop or you're going to blow your brains out editing this.
All right, everybody. We're out of here, man. Later, George.